Welcome to our cyber risk assessment little mini webinar. I don't know if it can be really considered a webinar with only 15-ish minutes or so, but we are here today to give you a very brief overview and some insight into our cyber risk assessment that we can do for your organization and highlight the importance of what an assessment like that does for your organization and kind of just constantly working to build that really robust security posture. Before we kick things off, though, we'll do quick introductions. My name is Mikayla. I am a client success manager here at WorkSmart, and I will let Jesse introduce himself.
Yeah, so I'm Jesse. I am our Director of Managed Services.
So we are going to work together today to give you, again, just a brief overview of our risk assessment. We're going to start by talking quickly about the NIST cybersecurity framework that kind of sets the stage for your entire security posture as an organization. Kind of go into why any of this is even relevant, touch on the security risks in today's kind of modern world of business. And then we will do an overview of the assessment itself and the different steps that go into it and kind of what each step entails. And then we'll wrap it up with next steps and fill you in on what you can do if you want more information or you would like to kick off one of these assessments. So to get started, we'll talk about the NIST framework. So this is a security framework that includes 6 kind of broad buckets that go into it. And Jesse, you can take it away with a little bit more in depth about what this framework actually is and what it means.
Yeah, so the version of the NIST cybersecurity framework, or the CSF, is version 2.0, which was actually released earlier this year in 2024, 10 years after the release of the still existing CSF framework, or the cybersecurity framework. NIST, or the National Institute of Standards and Technology, had designed the version 2 of the cybersecurity framework to be very broadly applicable to businesses inside or outside of the United States, and really at any state. Just starting off into figuring out and developing a cybersecurity program, or very mature in any vertical at any size. And so it has a lot of flexibility and applicability, regardless of where your organization is at. And the biggest change for the 2.0 version of the cybersecurity framework was the addition of that 6th bucket that Mikayla mentioned. They're called functional groups in the NIST terminology, and govern was the new addition, which is really kind of a tie together or an umbrella functional area for everything else, and really gets into the heart of policies and procedures and kind of how the business operates, and how everything kind of ties into cybersecurity, risk management, and everything. The other functional areas get into identify, where you are working to understand what risks your business expects to encounter. Protect, which focuses on what you can do to defend against the risks that you assume are going to exist. Detect, which is your ability to know if one of those risks has been exploited. Respond, which gets into your ability to respond as soon as you know that something has happened, that a bad actor has exploited a risk in your environment. What do you do about it? Who do you contact? What actions need to be taken? And then the final functional area, recover, is all about getting your business back to business as usual, back to the desired state of operations, and tie everything all up, get everything clean, and kind of put this event in the past and move forward. So that's the standard in a nutshell.
Yeah, and obviously all 6 of those pieces work together simultaneously, ongoing, to kind of keep your organization at the top of its game as far as security posture. And kind of going off of that, obviously everyone is well aware that security is top of mind for most business leaders, if not everyone across the organization. It is one of the largest, if not the largest, threat to businesses these days. And as you know, these risks and these attackers get smarter and smarter, the tools and the assessments and the security pieces that are put into play also have to get smarter to continue to combat all of these new and improved security risks that seem to keep coming out. So diving a little bit more into the actual risk assessment, like Jesse was talking about, the 6 different buckets of the NIST framework, the assessment itself kind of covers a couple of different buckets, if you will. It obviously taps into the identifying piece, where we're looking out there searching for potential risks and opportunities and vulnerabilities that are exposed from your organization. But it also kind of plays into the protection piece, as the final step of the risk assessment is that remediation plan and what can we do to fix anything that was found as a potential risk. So the 3 broad steps that go into play in the risk assessment are: step 1, analyzing your current state. So where are you at today? What's in place? What do you have going as far as security, so we can get a better understanding of what are those holes, what are those gaps that we can fill in. Step 2 is going to be intake. So it's a variety of interviews with people at your organization, understanding, one, how the business operates as far as it relates to security, and making sure that we have all the front information and data to be able to then go into step 3, which is reviewing all of that information and data and making recommendations and that remediation plan roadmap, if you will, to make sure that we identified all of these things. Now, what do we do about it? And what are those recommendations? So, Jesse, if you want to take a little bit deeper dive into those steps, starting off with step 1, what are we actually doing to analyze the current state of organizations?
Yeah, so the method that we'll utilize is we deploy an agent-based vulnerability and risk management platform into your environment. It gets installed on workstations and/or servers in your environment. Our goal really is to get it as broadly deployed as possible. We can use a variety of different means to do that. We'll work with your team to figure out the best way to do it quickly and efficiently. We want to try to get them well spread out throughout the environment. So if you've got multiple facilities, get some at least installed in all those different locations. But what this platform will do is it's going to look at known vulnerabilities related to software, hardware, network related infrastructure throughout your environment, and it will report all that information back so that we can get a little bit of a perspective on kind of where things are at a relatively basic level in the physical environment. And then we'll also do things like a dark web identity scan to give some perspective on what sort of information might be out there related to your business already that's out there on the dark web. People are, bad actors are talking about the business or sharing information that's been leaked. Again, just kind of help inform a little bit of perspective on kind of where we're at, what sort of information might already be out there, so that we can use that information in the assessment steps that come next. And then if you're using something like Microsoft 365 or G Suite for Business, we can do tie-ins with those platforms to get some information about what sort of sensitive information is in those platforms and what sort of security measures are already in place that are protecting that information. Again, kind of driving and facilitating the next component of the assessment, which gets into doing interviews. Where we do kind of a separate intake, which is very high level and is just aimed at guiding the CSF portion of the assessment, where we will go into and do functionally specific. So we'll go over that govern section, we'll go over identify and protect, and we're going to adjust the scope of the content that we cover in those interviews based on that initial intake. So if you're just starting off as a business with putting together a cybersecurity plan, we're not going to go over all the real intensive practices and standards and everything. We're going to start off someplace that's going to be manageable, put together a plan that we're going to be able to accomplish together over the next 6, 12, maybe 18 months. And then we can circle back and we can revisit some of those higher tier categories at a later date. And then, of course, at the end, we'll come back and we'll present the information with some high level, kind of like 15,000 foot view recommendations on that next step in the timeline. And we can figure out kind of what makes sense in terms of, what hurdles we want to try to get over first, order events and everything from there.
Cool. Yeah. So obviously the assessment itself is a very collaborative, ongoing process. So this initial kind of assessment piece is really just that, again, analyzing your current state, doing the series of interviews based on what is found from step one, and then reviewing and recommending and coming up with that remediation plan, which is then obviously an ongoing process as we continue to work towards closing those gaps and vulnerabilities and building up your security posture overall as an organization. Obviously, this was a very high level, quick overview of kind of what the assessment entails and what goes into it. But if you have more specific questions, or if you are curious about what this could look like for your organization, definitely reach out to your client success manager, and we will get you in the right place. Obviously tied in with Jesse's team, who will be running these assessments. So yeah, if you have any questions, let us know. And we appreciate you hanging out with us for a few minutes.